Hey, it's Melissa Moore, and welcome to my Mile High Kitchen, Melissa's Mile High Kitchen, right here in Colorado. So I'm excited. I've teamed up with Mountain High Appliance, and we are going to be doing so many different cooking videos for you. And so right now I'm in the Littleton, Colorado location. This is beautiful. They have this huge showroom and all of these designer, fully functioning kitchens. And so I'm in the Gaggenau kitchen. And Gaggenau is a brand that's been around since the 1600s. I know, it is crazy. This kitchen is incredible. And this is just one of many here at Mountain High Appliance at the beautiful showroom here in Littleton. So that's what we're going to be making today, our gluten-free and dairy-free chocolate chip cookies. And if you're new to gluten-free cooking and it feels overwhelming, my hope for you is that I can make it easy, that I can show you, hey, you can cook gluten-free, you can cook dairy-free, and you're gonna save money. It's gonna be fresh in your house. You're gonna know exactly what's going into your food. And the nice thing is you can go to the grocery store and get all of this and make it. And it's really not that difficult. But here's the other thing, and I'm a big believer. So I have celiac disease and my daughter has it. And I decided, well, I really had to go gluten-free about 17 years ago. Around the same time, my daughter was diagnosed with autism. And so when we did that, I was like, hey, this food's got to taste good. I grew up and my mom was a home ec teacher. And so I grew up with all these baked goods. I come home from school like homemade chocolate chip cookies 3 or 4 times a week. So I was like, okay, these have to be good, right? So I feel like I've perfected it. There's always room for improvement. You may come up with something, you're like, put a dash of this in that. Great. So I'm going to have the recipe up. You'll find it at my website, melissamoremedia.com, and we'll have it at different websites. The other thing I want to tell you is, yes, it's gluten-free and dairy-free, but I'm also going to be using egg whites. And if you're like, oh man, I don't want to use eggs, no worries. So you can also use aquafaba. Aquafaba is just the fancy word from the juice at the top of a can of beans. So if you get a can of garbanzo beans or Great Northern beans and that liquid that normally we drain off, that is aquafaba. Next time you start to drain it, take a look at it and you'll be like, it does look like an egg yolk. I'm telling you, some chefs are even able to make it into meringue for pies. It really is incredible. But that is a great alternative for egg whites if you don't want to use egg whites. Also making flax eggs where you have flax meal and water together, that is another great option. So at the recipe, just because I want to make sure that you feel comfortable, I'm going to also put, hey, here's how you can do 2 eggs if you do flax eggs. Here's how you do it with the aquafaba. All of that will be on the recipe. But for today, I'm going to be using egg whites. All right, so the first thing, chocolate chip cookies. We've all had them. You know they're either good or you're like, that wasn't my favorite. You got to have chocolate chips. So one of the things that I do is I get these. There are different brands out there. I grabbed the Enjoy Life today, and they're gluten-free and they're dairy-free. Because some chocolate chips, you just think they're going to be dairy-free and they actually have milk fat in them. So just double check. But that's what I'm using today. Once again, you may find something different. Your store may have something you like better. Knock yourself out. All right. The other thing I want to tell you is we're going to start off, and it's kind of in 2 parts. So I've got gluten-free flour, and what I like for my recipes, and I've been using Bob's Red Mill products for 17 years. And right now, it's such a great time if you decide that you have to go gluten-free or you want to, because the products that are out there are high quality and they've done a lot of the testing for you. So like Bob's Red Mill's 1-to-1 means that for every cup of wheat flour you would use, you could use 1 of the cups of their flour. So that's what I'm using today is the Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1. And so what it also has in it is xanthan gum. So it either has to have guar gum or xanthan gum in the flours, and that's the binder. So if you're kind of new to gluten-free cooking and you're like, well, why does it always have 3 or 4 flours or even more? That's because to get the consistency of the flours, you gotta have it. All right, so there's your little lesson in what we're doing with the flours. So start off, I've got 2 1/4 cups of Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 flour right here. And if you're wondering, see, I have my little recipe here. I don't know how you do it at home. I have recipe books out when I'm cooking, but I have to have the recipe. And it doesn't matter how many times I've made something, I'll be like, what was that I needed? All right, so we're gonna do all the dry ingredients first together, put them in a bowl, and then we're gonna whisk them just to mix them all up. So we've got the 2 1/4 cups of the flour, gluten-free flour, in here right now. Now we need a teaspoon of baking soda. Okay, funny story. So guy I'm working with right now, he was like, oh, I'll stop. And I go, okay, great. Get me baking soda and baking powder. He's like, no problem. He got me 2 different brands of baking soda. So there is a difference, all right? And if you're like wondering, whatever brand you want, store-bought brand, whatever, but we are going to be doing, it is 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Putting it right in there. All right, next, you always need a little salt in your cookies. All right, so this is just your regular table salt. Nothing fancy. Half a teaspoon going in there with the flour, with the baking soda. All right, so the next thing we want to do is you want to just whisk it up. And it's funny because I was thinking about back in the day when I would be cooking and baking in the kitchen with my mom, she had this flour sifter. And you'd pour it in there and you'd have to like squeeze the handle and sift all the flours together. I don't know very many people that do that anymore. She asked me one day, I'm like, Mom, I don't even own a flour sifter. But here's what I do. I put all the dry ingredients in here, mix them up. There they are, nice and mixed, easy peasy, not a big deal. All right, so the dry ingredients are now done, okay, except for the chocolate chips, but we'll get to that. All right, so I told you that we are doing gluten-free and dairy-free. So you want plant butter. There are a lot of different brands out there. The one I'm using today, just full disclosure, is the Country Crock Plant Sticks. It's 1 cup of butter. I didn't throw that on the floor, by the way. There's a trash can hidden. I'm like, just throw it there. Like David Letterman used to throw the note cards. Just throw it over my head. Anyway, focus here, right? All right, so I've got 1 cup of plant butter. That is 2 sticks, and you want to get it in your mixer. Now, I'm using a KitchenAid mixer. It has just kind of been, this is my personal one too. Like I traveled with this today, but I've got a hand mixer. It's whatever you want to do, but you do need that mixer to really get everything going. So I've got 1 cup of butter in here. Let's move this over a little bit closer. All right, so now what we want to do is slowly add our sugar. So we've got 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. If you don't realize this, you need to pack your brown sugar. It's so funny. That's like one of those things I remember as a kid, my mom giving it to me and I'm packing it in there. So 3/4 a cup of packed brown sugar, 3/4 a cup of white sugar. Add them in there slowly. It doesn't matter which one you do first, by the way. All right, butter's going. We'll see if I need to find that. Oh, I do have a rubber scraper ready. All right, turning it up a little bit. So I'm on looks like a 4. You know, whatever works for you. Okay, so we're adding this in there slowly. I'm gonna slow it down a little bit. But yeah, you're just wanting to really mix it in there well. All right, so still adding it in there. All right, there we go. All right, next is the brown sugar. This one is always a little tougher because you did have to pack it in there. Break it up a little bit. Anytime I have my daughter cook, I tell her to pack it in there and then I look over and it's like plop. There goes the whole thing in there. So if you can, I mean, it's not always easy. Try and add it slowly. Yeah, see, not really that slow, but it's slower. All right, this is also a time that you're really gonna wanna scrape your bowl down. So, rubber scraper, super easy. I have this attachment on mine that's half rubber scraper and half just a regular mixer thing. Oopsie, missed the bowl there. That helps, but definitely for cookies, I still find like I need to go through the bowl, scrape it down. You just want everything mixed in there really well. All right, back to mixing, finish up with the brown sugar. And you can see as you look in there that it's either breaking up nicely or it's not. All right, this is looking great, breaking up. The mixture looks what you would expect. I mean, you've made other kind of cookies before. You know what the butter and sugar as you're creaming them together looks like. I mean, there it is. And it really, even with dairy-free butter, it does look about the same. I will say with dairy-free butter, pull it out of the fridge a few minutes before you're ready to use it. If you pull it out and you leave it on the counter and it gets like mushy where you can almost put your finger through it, that's gonna be soft, too soft. And what happens if those fat solids are too warm, then your cookies are like You know, they splat out everywhere. You don't want that. So you want it to be a little firm. I mean, it needs to, you know, you don't want frozen butter. That's not good either. And that's the other thing I have found. Sometimes this butter goes on sale, and I'll be at the grocery store, and if it's on sale, I buy it because you can throw it in the freezer and then pull it out and use it. So when you see a deal, especially gluten-free stuff is more expensive, as you know. And if you go to a bakery, and we've got some great gluten-free bakeries here in Denver, and I love them. But if you go to a bakery, I mean, it's $9, $10 for a loaf of bread. I bought cookies for my daughter, and I think it was like $1 a cookie. And so you're gonna be able to make these much less expensive, and they're fresh, and they're from your kitchen. So the other thing I will tell you about this, and the same was true with whether it's muffins or cupcakes, is if you bake a bunch, gluten-free tends to dry out quicker, especially here in Denver where it's mile high. Freeze some of them, save them, freeze them. It really is easy, and then just pull them out of the freezer for your family. Much easier. All right, so we've got just about all of the wet ingredients in here except for 2. So almost turn that on. All right, so what we're gonna do now, 1/3 cup of egg whites. All right, once again, in the recipe, if you go online, I'm gonna have the aquafaba and how to make a flax egg. It's gonna be a little different, but I will have it there. So we're gonna add this, and then we're gonna add it slowly again. And the eggs, you definitely want to not go crazy high on the speed, but get it going there a little bit. All right. One more thing to add to the wet ingredients, and that is your vanilla. Now, I've got friends, and I travel to Mexico a lot, so I get it. Mexican vanilla, it's awesome. You can find it on Amazon now. But whatever vanilla you have at home, just use it. It's fine. But I will tell you, I'm a big fan of the Mexican vanilla when I have it. You used to have to, I don't want to say smuggle it in, but you used to have to gently bring it into the US. And now you can just order it from Amazon. So, you know, I'm not saying I ever did that. I'm just saying I've had a friend that brought Mexican vanilla in. All right, so we've got our wet ingredients. They're rocking and rolling. They're ready to go. So they are, and it might be a little thinner because of the egg whites, the dairy-free butter. It may not look quite the same consistency that you've seen with other cookies. Just know that what we're gonna do when we get done with the dough, and this is what I found kind of the key for gluten-free cookies is any kind really, put it in the fridge for half an hour. There are different places online that will tell you 1 to 2 hours. I found half an hour works, but really it's up to you. And the other thing is you can freeze cookie dough. I know, that's how it goes in ice cream. Like, I mean, if you really wanted to go crazy, you can make homemade ice cream, homemade cookie dough, and bada bing, bada boom. All right, so let's add our dry ingredients now. We're gonna add them in slowly to our wet mixture. So once again, I've got them all ready to go right here. The last thing we're gonna do is put in the chocolate chips. So I'm locking the mixer. It's always fun if you don't lock it. It's like a big flower party if you want one. All right, so we're adding it in here slowly. So on my mixer, and it really would be the same, whether it's a hand mixer or you've got a stand mixer like this one, whatever brand, doesn't matter, is you wanna put it on the stir or a low. So when you're doing the eggs and you're doing the sugar and you're doing all that, you're doing it quicker because you're trying to add some air to it. But this, you're really just stirring it in. You're not folding it, but you're stirring it. All right, so that's looking pretty good. I'm gonna turn it off and scrape it down again. Really, the scraping it, even though it's kind of a pain in the butt sometimes, it's the only way to make sure you really get everything mixed in there. If you skip the scraping it, then it's just not as good. All right, so we're scraping. We're gonna add the rest of the flour. Okay, flour is in. And you can kind of see as you look at it that the dough is grabbing from the sides. I mean, it's cookies. It's cookies. And it's funny, I was talking to a friend of mine, and she has never made cookies, okay? She is in her late 40s. And she's like, well, you mean the kind from a box? I'm like, what are you talking about? And so we're having this conversation, and I go, Hazel, you make them with all the ingredients. She goes, what? And I'm like, okay. So I always feel like everybody knows how to make cookies, but not everybody does. And that's awesome. I mean, who cares? You can start anytime. That's why I'm like, you can cook. You can do this. Gluten-free, dairy-free baking, no problem. You have to take these special cookies to a kid's birthday party. You can take them. All right, so chocolate chips, I'm putting in the whole bag. The recipe calls for, what does it tell me? Like 2 cups? This is like 2 and maybe 1/4, whatever. We're just gonna add them. All right, and this is where you really are putting them in slow. And the only reason you're really putting them in slow is you want them all over the place. Oh my gosh, this looks so incredible. I don't know what it is about the smell of baked goods. I mean, this is just sugar and flour and vanilla, and it smells incredible. So I don't know. What do you think, Andy? Can you smell them?
Yep.
Smell good?
Yep.
See, I'm telling you. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. Is we are, Andy, by the way, is the camera guy, extraordinaire, producer, all of that good stuff. So what we're gonna do is scrape as much of this off as you can. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, if you got to lick the beater, that was like the best. I would fight my sister. I'd be coming downstairs when I heard the mixer going because I wanted to get it. And we didn't have this kind of mixer. We had the 2 ones. And thank goodness my mom had 2 girls because she's like, you can each have one. I'm like, okay, I wanted both of them, but sure. All right, so here's what's gonna happen. We've got the cookie dough, kind of give you a little show of that right now. Cookie dough is great. I'm gonna find some plastic wrap, put the plastic wrap or parchment paper, put it on top of it, kind of press it down a little bit just to keep other flavors, you know. I mean, it's one of those things that if you've got a lot of food already in your fridge, you don't want it soaking into the cookies. So we're gonna do that, pop it in the fridge. Oh, here's a piece of parchment paper. I'm just gonna take it off here. All right, parchment paper, fold it in half, stick it like this, and I'm gonna go walk over and put it in the fridge really quick. All right, so the cookie dough is in the fridge. It's gonna sit there for about 30 minutes. Once again, if you forget and it's been 45 minutes or an hour, that's fine. Take it out. If it's been in there longer than an hour, I would say when you take it out, let it kind of sit for probably about 15 minutes, warm up a little bit, but then just put your cookies on the cookie sheet and we're gonna bake them 375. If you don't have your oven heating up yet, you can start that now, 375, and we're gonna bake them for 12 minutes. I will tell you this, if you like your cookies underdone, go about 10 or 11 minutes. If you like them really crispy, you can probably go up to 15. It's always your oven. Everybody's oven is calibrated differently. And even if you're like, well, I thought it was 350, sometimes it's not, whatever, just keep an eye on them. I'm one of those people, I can always tell when something's done by the smell. I'm like, yeah, I smell it, it smells done. Other people are like, whatever. The other thing is, I'm telling you, one of my favorite things is that your phone, set the timer on your phone. If you're not doing this, or like Alexa or one of those devices, set the timer there. That way it goes off in the whole house. I've had my daughter walk in before and she heard the timer going and she yelled, hey mom, your timer's going. I didn't hear her. I was on the other half of the house and she turned it off. Well, you can imagine what happened. All right, so we're gonna cook and bake those cookies here in just a minute as soon as the fridge dough is ready. All right, here we go. See, this is why we like the parchment paper. The cookie dough is not all stuck on it. You can also tell how the cookie dough kind of, I don't want to say hardened, but what happens is the fats. So your dairy-free butter in here, which when it gets warm, like anything, it's more liquid. So you put it in the freezer. That way your cookies, have you ever had a pan of cookies where they all just spread everywhere and they're all touching and then you're trying to cut them using the spatula? This makes it a lot easier if you can put it in the fridge. I had it in there for about 30 minutes. Once again, 30 minutes means I can use it right away. If it was longer, I'd have to let it set out for a couple minutes. All right, so we've got our cookie dough. It's ready to go. So here's the deal. You can either do the 2-spoon method where you do that, and that's what I've always done. I'm gonna try the cookie dough scooper. Let's see how this works. Now, if you are familiar with cookie dough, you know that sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't. Gluten-free, it almost always sticks. All right, so let's see. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. All right, we're gonna do, I'm trying to think how many. I feel like these cookies make either 3 or 4 dozen. I think it's 3. The other cool thing is, if you want, and you want to freeze cookie dough, freeze it and then let it sit out a little bit, and then you can just bake it up. Because that is one of the things when my daughter was little, I was like, unlike my mom who would make cookies numerous times a week, I was like, I'm the mom that will make them maybe once every couple weeks for you. All right, I'm getting another cookie sheet. I like parchment paper. It's clean, it's easy. I hate having to scrub cookie sheets. And then we all know how cookie sheets get when they get old and they have like that yellow, but how the cooking spray kind of discolors them. So I use parchment paper. Cleanup is easier. All right. Okay, I have to admit, I'm digging this little cookie thing here. I've got one at home too. And there's so many times that I just grab the spoons to do the spoon method. All right. All right, we're almost ready here. So we're gonna start with 2 dozen in the oven. All right, so you've got the oven, hopefully it's all ready now. Can you tell what I'm trying to do here? There we go, got it back. All right, so hopefully you've got the oven, 375. I'm gonna do these for 12 minutes. I'm not gonna switch the pans around. I'm just gonna put both of them in there, 12 minutes. We will see how they look. They usually turn out fine. That's kind of my thing. Once again, if you like your cookies crispier, and everybody's different, I like mine not crispy. I like you to bend them, but you know, you break them apart and they're still a little, not doughy, but you know what I mean. They're just not crispy. All right, I'm gonna put these in the oven, 12 minutes, and we'll see. All right, 12 minutes. We'll see how things went. This is also a good time for cookie dough, just to remind you, stick it back in the fridge. That way it doesn't get too warm as you're waiting. If you have double ovens, go to town. You can do all the cookies at once. I'm gonna stick it back in the fridge. All right, 12 minutes are up, so I need to get my cookies. I mean, seriously, look at, whoa, as I about slide them off. All right, so I'm just gonna put them here and show you. Throw that over there. All right, here they are. I can't grab one of these yet because these, you have to trust me, this is hot. So here's the deal, they're hot, all right? They've cooled off a little bit enough where you can pick one up, okay? All right, so let's take a look here. Oh, yes, look at that. Seriously, this almost makes me cry. Okay, let's see if they taste as good, because that's really the big taste. Or test. Okay, stop it. These are amazing. I know it's my recipe, and I feel like I'm patting myself on the back, but they really are good. I don't know what else to say about them, but they're amazing. All right. I probably shouldn't put so much. I feel like there's probably a TV trick where you really don't chew. Not this girl. I'm like, no, give me a bite. So here's the deal. You just made, by the time we get the other dough out of the fridge and cook it up, you've got 3 dozen cookies, maybe a little bit more. You made them. You can freeze a bunch of them, pull them out when you're ready. Here's my trick I did for my daughter. So, because you know what it is, if you make your kid lunches, and if you have a daughter like mine who's gluten-free and dairy-free, I made her lunch every day. She couldn't get lunch at the school. So I always wanted something yummy in her lunch, and I would make her homemade cookies and cupcakes and things like that. So after I would make these cookies and they would cool, I would put them in individual baggies in the freezer. And the whole reason was, so when I'm making her lunch and I'm putting the lunchbox together for her, or when she got older and did it, she could just reach in there, grab a bag of cookies, good to go. They thawed by lunchtime, I'm telling you. So that's just my little tip. All right, I may be eating more of these.